I'm very difficult to please with movies. Always have been. Especially when it's a character or a series or a medium that I've been a fan of since I was a little kid. Basically, my dad started reading me comics when I was about 3, so I was really involved with them. And at a young age, the death of Superman was a huge storyline, and it really locked me in. Since then, I was a huge fan of Superman, Green Lantern, all these different characters. So when they put them in movie form, I get excited, but I'm always a little trepidatious. I honestly cannot think of a bad thing to say about the Superman movie I saw the other night. James Gunn's Superman, as it's being called, because there's been 40 Superman movies in the last 20 years, is amazing. I'm going to get into a little bit of spoilers here. This is not going to be your typical YouTube reviewer where they break down every scene and point out everything. I'm just going to list some thoughts off the top of my head and tell you what I thought of it as a true Superman fan. And just a movie fan in general, and someone that really ends up hating a lot of movies. I'm a Mystery Science Theater fan. I find fault in almost everything, but I'm struggling to find fault here, so let's get into it. As far as the movie itself, it jumps right into it. There is no time wasted. Right off the bat, they give you a small crawl as if well, it's not really a crawl, but it's some information on the front, like Star Wars, where it fills in the backstory. You don't need to see Superman crashing to Earth. You don't need to see his upbringing in Smallville. That's stuff that we've seen on the screen at least 4 or 5 times in the last 40 years, so it doesn't need to be covered. It's much like with Batman. You don't need to see his parents get murdered in the alley again. It's kind of common. Same thing with Spider-Man. You don't need to see Uncle Ben get killed again. The way they dove into it in Spider-Man Homecoming was great. It was just, there's Spider-Man, here's how he is, let's figure out the story. So anyway, back to Superman. The movie starts off with him having just gotten his ass kicked, and it's the 2 scenes that were released earlier this year. So the spoiler scenes are out of the way super early. Right off the bat, you get the scene where he crash lands in the snow and calls for crypto, and then the scene where he's being repaired by the Superman robots, or whatever they're called. So the movie gets right to it. It doesn't waste any time with a preamble or a slow build on Krypton. It's just boom, we're in. Okay, so next point. I really like the characters. It's a Superman movie, of course, but everyone gets their time. Lois Lane is phenomenal in this movie. A lot of times in a Superman movie or a show like this, the woman has to put down the superhero to look better. Here, they are shown to be very competent individuals on their own. They're shown to have very different viewpoints on certain things, but also have a common ground, a way of discussing them and arguing about them like a real relationship would. It's also nice that they just start them off together. We don't have to waste any will they, won't they time. They're in. We know that in the Superman universe, he's with Lois Lane. That's it. So we get right to it, and it builds some interesting tension because at first, it's the early stages of them dating, and she doesn't know if she wants to date him, and all this stuff. So it's very well done for a superhero movie. They include the romance and other crap like that pretty well. As far as the rest of the Daily Planet, Jimmy Olsen, for the first time in what feels like history, except for his silly comic book he had at one point, Jimmy Olsen is actually a character that matters. They made him a spot of humor in the movie. They gave him a lot of little facial expressions and quirks. It's a great actor. I don't know who it is, but it was the fact that they actually made Jimmy Olsen vital to the story and not just a throwaway character. And they did it throughout the whole movie. He didn't just come in one scene and do something important. I thought that was awesome. The Justice Gang. Let's talk about Guy Gardner. They call him Green Lantern and Guy Gardner kind of interchangeably. Hawkwoman and Mr. Terrific. They're fighting for Mr. Lord's team, the Justice Gang. You have a feeling that they're trying that name out now and they're going to eventually settle on Justice League, but that's great that they're starting them out in an earlier sense. It almost feels like I can't believe it's not the Justice League from 20 years ago when they had that miniseries, where it's a bunch of quirky characters kind of figuring out their way. Guy Gardner has done well. I was afraid with Nathan Fillion because he really seems like someone that's played Guy Gardner a lot already in all of his roles. So I didn't know. It almost felt too on the nose to cast him, and I was worried that the trailers I didn't know what to make of it. After seeing the movie, I was blown away. They wrote Guy Gardner perfectly. Everything he does, he acts brash, stupid, funny. The scene where he's revealing Clark Kent's or Superman's identity to Lois Lane before he even realizes if she knows it, it's really well written. So yeah, Guy Gardner, I can't wait to see more of that character. Hawkwoman also, they showed her being really badass in the fights. She probably had the least action scenes of all the main characters, but still, she had some great quips and a lot of back and forth with Guy Gardner and Mr. Terrific. and that's a character I can't wait to see more of. I think she's in the in season 2 of the John Cena show. Why am I going blank on that right now? Peacemaker. Mr. Terrific. He was phenomenal. I was so glad that I got to read some JSA where Mr. Terrific was a character back when I was reading comics in the early 2000s. It's a phenomenal character with his T-spheres and the way he's just so scientifically minded. He's like Mr. Fantastic, but even better. And the way he's in this movie, he has a dry sense of humor, but he's brilliant. His spheres are powerful, but he still kind of can handle himself. The only real Guardians of the Galaxy scene where they mixed music with the movie well was the scene where Mr. Terrific is with Lois Lane and puts her in a bubble for safety, and then fights all the villains, which was phenomenal. So yeah, I really can't say anything bad. Ultraman, that was interesting. I didn't expect Ultraman to be a clone of Superman, but the reason I fell into that trap is because once you realize, you say, oh, wait a minute, Ultraman has always been a mirror image of Superman. It's always been Superman from a different dimension or Earth 2 or something. So they're kind of giving him a backwards creation where he was cloned, can't even speak or think on his own, and then he falls into that weird dimension, but he wasn't definitively killed or anything. So it really seems like he's going to come back as an evil version of Superman, maybe the Ultraman of that universe, maybe it's Brainiac's universe. But once you realize it's Ultraman, it's like, oh, but the way they did it in the movie, they gave Ultraman a character which almost seemed like Doomsday. It had like the goggles like Doomsday, but then he had the kind of military-esque outfit. There were rumors that was Lobo, so I didn't know what to expect. So when it was revealed it was Superman, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then it dawned on me, oh, Ultraman, of course it was Superman. If I was not avoiding trailers and everything so much and reading about Superman beforehand, it probably would have dawned on me earlier. But that's okay. It was well done. I think that's just, last but not least, Lex Luthor. This was probably the best on-screen version of Lex Luthor. It's not actually a land grab again, thank God it is, but it's really just so he can kill Superman. He's shown to be so competent and basically, instead of him getting in a battle suit, he's programmed these people, or he's programmed a way to use Ultraman to fight Superman. And it's just really interesting. And you see his motivations. He's not just evil for the sake of evil. He's got motivations. He's got an arc. Everyone in this story is taken care of. Nobody is left behind. You see the motivations of the Justice Gang when they don't want to get involved in the international conflict. You see how they're conflicted themselves about that. So I just think it was really well done. Let me get to the setting, and then I think I'm going to call it a day. The setting was phenomenal. An issue with a lot of superhero movies or CGI movies in general, they have that kind of haze. They have a kind of darkness to them to cover up the CGI or cover up the difficulty they have with martial arts or the movements in a suit. This movie's very bright. The CGI doesn't look bad. It doesn't look out of place. And it's just a colorful movie to watch. It's a fun, bright, not loud, but like musically fun experience. It's all around. It's a good movie. Even if you're not a Superman fan, even if you're not a superhero fan, you'll find something in this movie to enjoy. Actually, and last but not least, it was interesting, and I thought for the better of the movie, that they made Superman vulnerable for most of this movie. And I don't mean like he was just walking around with a kryptonite necklace, but he was vulnerable both in a sense that he lost his first fight, Lex Luthor and his gang broke into his house. They stole crypto. They destroyed all his robots. They took the footage of his parents. There's a real sense of being robbed. And then as soon as that happens, he's also turned on by the entire world who thinks he's evil now. It's like you really get that sense of this guy being lonely, being not sure what to do. What did his parents even send him here for? I just thought it was really, really well done. And it gives you a sense of when he comes to the end and he comes to the realization that his parents here gave him the true upbringing that he needed, and that he really is just as human as anyone else. I thought, well done, really well done. It's hard to make a superhero movie have a emotional core like that, but it did. So all in all, I cannot say enough phenomenal things about Superman. I might actually go see it again. Can't wait for it to come on streaming, so I could really pour over it and just see different scenes and pause and go back. But all in all, I'm excited to see where we go from here. Also, it's exciting to see, a good jumping off point with the biggest superhero in the world. I mean, Superman is superheroes. That's why they were named superheroes, because of Superman. So, all right. That, I think, will call it a video. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your thoughts in the comments if you liked, disliked, disagreed, whatever. I'm excited to discuss, and I'm excited that we have these movies again to have fun with. So have a good day, everyone. See you later.